Hi, I'm just coming out of the presentation to see if you are seeing me now okay. Are you managing to see me? Are you hearing me speak in this presentation here? Okay, great. So number one, you've got sound, you've got picture, and you're seeing me, right? Yes, can see and hear. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Noelle. Thank you, Marie. I am now going to try and share the desktop. So hopefully you will then see the presentation just as clearly. So is that now showing? You should now be seeing the presentation large and me nice and small. So hoping that we are, yes, both, woohoo. Okay, we got it. All right then. So thank you all. Honestly, I don't know how you put up with all of this at all. We are sorted. This won't happen again. So from next month, everything will go completely smoothly. So thank you again for being here. Really, really pleased that you could make it. And what we're going to be talking about is applying the creative process to your creative enterprise. And I hope that you find the presentation is worthwhile, having waited so long for it. For those of you, I think most of the people who have stayed here actually do know me and know what I'm about. But for those of you who actually don't, just a couple of words to say I'm mainly a storyteller, poet, word lover. And as much as I love putting words together, I love putting creative people together, and particularly people who are interested in creative business. Very excited by all the digital possibilities that are available for us now, and very keen to pass on what I have kind of learned and hear what other people are learning as well. So great big creative explosion going on in the world, and that's completely marvelous. Hi, Jana. Hi, delighted you made it. So yeah, I run the Alliance of Independent Authors and the Creativist Club. The club is closed at the moment as we work through some people's businesses, but we will be opening again in a while. But in the meantime, there are always these monthly workshops that you can do, and there is our closed Facebook group, the Creativist Club Cafe, where we get together and set our intentions and so for each week, and basically encourage and motivate each other. And we do a morning flow practice and all sorts of nice creative goodies. So yeah, these workshops, they happen once a month. I am going to continue with the Facebook Live platform, because I do think it is very good for this, even though I have had difficulties, particular difficulties for all sorts of just small reasons really, but it all came together the way tech does. But from now on, as I said, we'll be here on the third Tuesday of each month, 7 p.m. London time. And it's as simple as just coming to my author page and on the third Tuesday at that time and tuning in or catching up later. And each month we do a theme of interest to indie authors, and particularly, indie authors who are entrepreneurial, who want to actually make a business, make a living from their writing, and other creative entrepreneurs as well. We have counselors, coaches, activists, all sorts of different people who are bringing what I call a creative approach to their business. That means that it's passion powered as much as it is profit powered, and those two coming together, and that we're open to creative techniques and the creative process, which I'm going to be talking a lot about tonight. And the workshops accompany a book series that's coming, and the club, and they're your opportunity to go a little bit deeper than a book can, and to ask questions and to get some particular feedback about your own situation. So the tech discomfort we've had up to now hasn't fully allowed all of that, but I'm hoping that it will as we go forward. So I think the presentation has disappeared again, so just popping that back in, hopefully. So yeah, that's just a bit about the Go Creative workshops and what we're trying to do here. So specifically now tonight, I want to talk about, oh dear, this got mashed up. I want to talk about the creative process, the 7 stages of that process, what they are, and how they can be applied to business and to money and to enterprise. So we talk a lot about creative flow and creative process with regard to the content of our business. So if we're a writer with regard to the books, if we're an activist with regard to the political activity, but we don't always think about the creative process very much. And I talk a lot about this, and we who work together in the Creativist Club, we talk a lot about this as well, you know, about why and how we can do this. But it's easier said than done, perhaps, or we talk about it and it's not always clear to people what we mean by it. So that's what I want to get into this evening. So I want to talk about what the process is, just for those who are not 100% sure what the creative process actually is, the 7 stages thereof. I want to get you thinking then a little bit about your own specific situation and that about where you are in the process and how it applies to different aspects of your own business and your own creative enterprises, and where you're at. So yeah, more and more of you are finding your way here, and thank you very much for being here, and apologies again for the mix-up. As I said, we are sorted from now on. This won't be happening again. BeLive and myself got together, and we will be fine from next month on. So thank you for being here, and hopefully it will be worth your long struggle to find it. So yeah, let's just talk a little bit about that process. Now, as I am looking at the screen here, it's not terribly clear. So can you tell me, can you actually see the 7 stages of the process there in front of you, divided into 3 phases? If you could just let me know in the comment box that it is clear to you, that you are seeing, you should be seeing on the left-hand side the stages of the process divided into 3 stages. So I'm not just going, yes, okay, thank you, Kim, and that is clear. I can see the writing on the left is a bit jumbled, but as long as you can see the actual stages and phases themselves. Okay, brilliant. So let's talk a bit about this. Okay. So the 7 stages of the creative process, and a lot of you are very familiar with these stages, whether you've actually named them for yourself or not. You will have gone through them every day of your life, whether you know it or not. So every time you go to make dinner, you go through this. Every time you go to make anything happen, you're actually going through these stages of the process. And very often, if something is easy and it's a short thing, a small thing that you're doing, you move so quickly through the stages, you don't even know you've done them. Your brain is kind of processing it all in the back matter. But sometimes when the project is a challenge for us, which by definition a creative project always is, and a creative business certainly is challenging, when it's a big thing, it really helps us to know the stages of the process, which stage we're in, and so on. So just moving pretty quickly through them. They're divided into 3 phases. There's the visioning phase, first of all, the formation phase, and then what I call the success phase. So the vision phase is made up of 3 stages. The first stage is the intention stage. You choose what it is you are making. In this case, creative business. And within that, of course, it's made up of loads and loads of smaller intentions, which might be your 5-year plan, you know, what you're going to get done in a particular session today, and everything in between. So intention is the first phase of the process. Intention, though, because it happens in the sort of conscious mind, but as soon as it does, things start to kick off back in the unconscious mind. And that's the second stage. And I want to make it clear right at the start, these are not linear. They don't kind of go in a nice little line like this. We're talking creative here, not nice and tidy stuff. And so they're looping around each other all the time. And at any moment in time, you've got all sorts of, like, hundreds of thousands of intentions firing off in your very complex brain, which is managing to do everything from kind of walk you around, to feed you, to clothe you, and for you to be working on your creative business. So once you make an intention, though, and you're serious about it, it kicks off the incubation phase in the subconscious. And you can add to that, you can actually strengthen that, your ability to incubate, to germinate ideas and intentions and make them manifest, make them happen. And simultaneously with all of that, in the vision phase is the investigation. So the movement is sort of that you're in your subconscious, you're germinating away, but up in your conscious mind, you're doing things, you're exploring. So you might be doing straight research, you might be finding something out in the normal kind of way, doing your Google search, down in the library, doing your accounts, whatever it might be, what we normally think of as research, exploration, investigation. But there's also an investigation of the memory happening. When have you done something like this before? What happened? And investigation of the imagination. What if I did it this way? What if something else happened? And so these are, as I said, the three stages of the vision phase. Once they have kicked off to a certain point, there comes a point where you enter the formation phase. And this is made up of making whatever it is you want to make. And in this case, again, we're talking about making a functioning, successful, creative business that, provides your living or beyond, whatever it is that your intention is. And we'll come back to all of this. So in the formation phase, you make a draft. First of all, a blueprint. Writers are very familiar with the concept of a first draft, but everybody who ever makes anything kind of does a rough draft. On your first time, it's always pretty rough. So it's useful, again, to use the cooking metaphor. If you think about the first time you cooked a complex dish, it's not so great, but then you refine it as you go and you get better at it to the point that you can kind of make it without thinking about it. Elaboration is a key part of this formation phase, and it's one that people very often forget. This is the deepening phase. Before you start to correct and clarify and fix and edit and all of that kind of thing, there is a deepening phase that happens. So the draft is there. The stuff that you're good at, you kind of hold that up. The stuff that's gone well, you look at how that has happened, what skills and things you need, and you think about raising the rest of it up to meet that. And again, this is something that's happening subconsciously for us a lot of the time, but you can contribute to this dynamic by doing it consciously once you're aware that it is a dynamic and how it operates. And then you're moving into the success phase. So I mentioned clarification, refining, making things better, making your processes work in a more slick and easy way, and clarifying what you do and don't want to do, and so on. And then there is completion. And it is, of course, only completion of this intention, because completion of one intention opens up another, always. But it's really important that if you set out with the aim, for example, to earn your living as an artist, let's take that example, when you have reached that point that you realize, I have finished that intention. Now, where do I go from here? Do I just want more time to make more art? Do I actually want to make more money? Do I want to, what is my next? But before I go on to this, what am I going to do next? That I realize and I celebrate, is the reason we have launches and so on. It's very, very important part of the process to completely finish and to put it out there in a way that kind of celebrates and draws other people in to recognize what we've done. So they are the 7 stages. So now I hope you have pen and paper. I didn't even get a chance to say with all our tech fiddles, I didn't get a chance to say that at the beginning. You will need pen and paper. This is a workshop. It's not just me wittering on. It is you actually looking at some of the techniques and theories and ideas and principles and looking at your own situation and applying thereof. So what I would like you to do now is to look specifically at your own business and do a quick recap, flash back in time where we spoke about, I think it would have been February's workshop, maybe March. We talked about the 3 hats that every creative has to wear as a business owner. So as a business, as somebody who's running a creative business, you are the maker. So you are the person. And this is what differentiates creative business from other businesses. And this is what makes it more challenging. And this is probably why you're doing it in the first place. The maker is the person who makes the content, what is going to be sold, the service or the product that you are going to bring to a micro niche of people who value it, who are willing to pay you money for it. And so you must make the stuff in the first place. And very often that's as far as a lot of us get to. But when it comes to creative business, you also have to be the manager. You have to look after your processes and you have to understand creative assets and you have to understand how they get set up and how they facilitate the maker. And then we have this guy we call the maximizer. He is or she is the person who goes out there and tells people about what's going on, who stretches and expands the business, who's always on the make, always making it bigger, always reaching out to more people. And this is the part of you that will have to go on to podcasts to tell other people what you're doing, or will have a book launch where you'll invite people along, or will go into your local arts centre, or who will go to government lobbyists or whatever. You're taking it out of the maker room out into the world when you're wearing your maximizer hat. So you've got these 3 hats to wear as a business owner, and you have to, as a creative business, as somebody who has a creative enterprise of any kind, as your month goes through, you have to take off one hat and put on the other. You should never see a month go by where you don't actually work on all 3 aspects of your creative business. And we'll get stuck into that now a little bit more about exactly what I mean by that. So let's just look at the first stage first, which is the vision phase. So this is where you set your intention, where you choose. So I want you to write down now on your pen and paper there. I want you to take a moment to free write around some of these issues as I'm talking about them. So what I am asking you to do, let me just first briefly, for those who haven't done it before, explain free writing, which is writing fast, writing raw, writing exact, and writing easy. I'm only going to talk about fast and raw tonight because of our late start, but when I say go in a few moments, when I set the exercise, I ask you to write fast, as fast as you can. And there are good reasons for that, and I won't go into them now, but if you want to know more about it, it's there on the website, ornaross.com/free writing. You'll find out more about it, why to do it, how to do it, and what a profoundly powerful, I suppose, technique that it is for people who are in creative business and for all 3 dimensions of us, the maker, the maximizer, and the manager. So I want you to think about any creative intention, large or small. It can be the big one that we're all here talking about all the time, which is, I want to earn X amount of money to keep me going. I want my business to be my full-time job. Or it could be a very small thing. It could be something that is important, that you need. When I say a small thing, something that's achievable within a week or a month, something you need to do. Wearing a hat, though, that you don't normally wear. So if you're very good at being the manager, put on the maker hat. If you're very good at being the maker, which I suspect most of you are, because most creatives are, take that hat off and put on the maximizer hat for once. So set an intention with a hat that you don't normally wear. And just write down that intention first in one sentence. What is that intention, first of all? Lucy loves this idea. Good to know. So, do we all have our intention written? So, just to say also that you have enormous power in the subconscious mind. And, there's more power in one drop of pure creative flow than there is in gallons of sweat and strain and toil and pushing. So make sure that you tap into that in the germination phase. We won't have time to germinate here tonight, but the fact that you've set your intention here, it's already kicking off things. As you sleep tonight, your brain will be working on this, and there are lots of techniques that you can use to strengthen your creative capacities, to make your subconscious work better for you if you're not already doing that. If you're not already delighted with how it does work, then I urge you to think about some of those. And a group of us meet in the Creativist Club 4 mornings a week. I do it live, but 7 mornings a week, to meditate and do some free writing on different themes. And that is one way that you can stay in touch with this dimension of yourself. But there are lots of others. That's just offered if you are interested. But you probably know your own way of deepening creative flow. You probably know the kinds of things you like to do. It's majorly about rest and play. It's about bazzing off. It's about having a good time. It's about, remembering why you want to do this in the first place, and not being hard on yourself and constantly beating yourself up. And if you don't think that you do that, you possibly don't in relation to when you're wearing your maker hat, possibly, though lots of us do. But it's quite likely that you do start this when you're wearing your manager hat or your maximizer hat. When money comes in the door, tension often comes in the door at the same time. So this part of the process, if you like, where you are encouraging creative flow, is how you break that dynamic, how you actually, get in touch with it. And it's really important to make that connection and realize that money and finance is like everything else. It's no different. How you create money is exactly the same as how you create anything else. Everything that is made follows this process that we are discussing here tonight. And again, we won't have time tonight for investigation of memory or of imagination or plain old research. But when you set an intention, it's great to play with looking around, seeing what else has been written about it, seeing who else is good and interesting in this sphere. We are spoiled, of course, for choice these days with Mr. Google at our fingertips. But it is worth putting a little bit of time into anything that is important enough to be an intention for you. Somebody else may well have sorted things and, know something that you don't. And of course, I can see by the very fact that you are here, that you are people who do that, who do go the extra mile, who are willing to learn, who are willing to put it out there. So just remembering that when you are doing that, it's a really important part of the process, and not to forget to do it around money, finance, business, and so on. These topics don't have to be boring. I know they are very boring in some fields in the way in which they are presented, but there is lots of good stuff now for creatives online about how to do money in the sort of ways that we like to do it. So don't be shy about that. So here we go then with a little bit of free writing time. I would like you to just quickly start to free write, taking the intention that you have just set. We'll write for about 4 to 5 minutes or so. And I want you to just take that intention, having written the intention now, which you already have done. I want you to think about it in relation to the maker, the manager, and the maximizer. I want you to write to yourself, talking about how well you manage each of these things in relation now to the early part of the process. setting an intention, germinating it, and investigating it. How have you done on that with regard specifically to your business? Start writing now. Write just a little bit faster. And just one more minute, write as fast as you can. Okay, so if you stop writing there and put the pen down, and can we just hear about anything that's happening for you, anything that came up in the free writing, anything you'd like to say, any comment you would like to make, any question particularly that you would like to ask? Are we confused? Are things clear? Are you understanding? Is anything emerging for you? This is your chance to talk about that, and if not, then we will move on to the next phase, the maker phase, if all seems well. So yeah, if you could take a moment to make a comment, that would be great. Either yay or nay. I think one of the main things about this whole way of thinking and approaching things is that it takes some time, and sometimes we can feel that we are very stretched for time. That's the one thing we don't have enough time, and we don't have enough money. Not sometimes, actually, always. As creative in creative enterprise, we feel that sense of not having enough time, not having enough money. And partly that's because we are quite vulnerable. Sometimes we've set our businesses up in a way where we feel that we are, we don't necessarily have the control. And certainly that's where we were up to recently. It wasn't possible, I would go so far as to say, for a creative to build a business like anybody else. We just didn't have the tools. When you put your livelihood in somebody else's hands, when you had curators and gatekeepers, great as they were and necessary as curation is, that was the system that we had, but it is not possible when somebody else owns your rights for you to actually build creative assets. It's not possible if somebody else has control over the maximization of your asset and, who's going to hear about it and how they're going to hear about it. It's not possible for you as a creative to actually have the necessary components of a business, of how a business is built step by step. I'd just like to talk a little bit now. Some of the comments are coming through. I'll start with Julie, who came in first. She needs to spend more time in the maker phase. She's staying in the comfort zone of managing and maximizing. And I'm sure other people are the opposite. Lucy says, I see how the maker, manager, maximizer roles work with running a business. Not clear how they work with intentions, reflections, and research. Let me then tackle that in a moment. And she says roles with an E, not ROLLS. She's thinking about dinner. I don't blame you, and I've kept you very late. So Kim says, realizing I've been specific and regular with intention, germination, and investigation, some aspects of my business this year. Well done, you. That's fantastic. But now I need to carry that specificity and regularity into more areas. That's great, Kim. And it will be great to hear about what those areas are. And Lucy is agreeing with that. And Sam here is in the much more commonplace, I think, position of being good and comfortable in making and maximizing, but not in the managing. And we are all strong in one. We all have our preference, and we all tend to do the one that we're more comfortable with, even though we define ourselves as creatives, which by definition means doing something that takes us a little bit out of our comfort zone. So I'd just like to return to Kim's or who was the question? Let me go back. Sorry, scrolling up and down here. Yeah, it's Lucy's question. She sees how the maker, a manager, and maximizer work in terms of running a business, but not in looking at this specific phase. So perhaps I overcomplicated that slightly. It's really just about when you make an intention for your business. So could you, Lucy, or anybody, if any of you would like to share your intentions, it would be easier for me to be more specific if I had a specific intention in front of me. But the point of understanding those three stages, the intention stage, the germination stage, and the research investigation stage, the point of understanding that is that you realize these need to happen, whatever is being created, and each of those hats needs to touch off each of them. So in a sense, if you think about it, it's sort of a 3x3. You're almost in a sort of a nine ways to approach the thing. So when you run your intention through your mind, you are thinking about your intention in terms of what it will do to the maker, what it will do to the manager, what it will do to the maximizer. As you germinate, it's the same thing. So you're not just thinking about it in terms of what you normally think about, but you're thinking about it at all three levels. And it's the same when you're doing the research. So you're not just researching, the maker stuff where you actually have to put it together, but you are also researching on the side. Sounds like three-dimensional chess. I love this. Okay, Lucy says, I see. So, okay, I think you get it. Let's just see what you're saying. You have a creative service business and the intention is to develop a digital division of that business. Great. Okay, so you want to develop a digital, sorry, it's hopped there, a digital division of your creative service. So let's say I'm just going to pull something out of the hat. I'm going to say that your creative service is, you're an editor. Okay, so if you work in editorial. So when you approach that intention, you think about that intention in terms of, the content. That's the maker. So that's the actual, when you have a manuscript in front of you and you are doing your edits, that's the content of the business. When you think about the intention, and this is the conscious thinking, and we'll come to the germination, which is a completely different process in a moment. When you think about your editorial business, and forgive me, Lucy, if you're not an editor, when you think about the editorial business, with your manager hat on, you're thinking about the processes of your actual business, how you get paid. For example, do you get paid up front? Is it 50-50? How does your payment process work? What do you actually use for payment? How much payment being just one aspect of the management, but also your processes. How do you take the material in? Do you how do they deliver it to you? How do you get it back to them? How do you actually manage all the comings and goings of your business? And in terms of also how you're going to take it out there and what creative assets you're going to create around your business as an editor, so that people know what you do and how you do it. But also, how you create your platform and your presence and online, set up your website. All these kinds of things fall into the management and the process end of things. And that overlaps very much always with the maximizer role, which is about increasing the business. So that means, reaching more clients, getting more leads, getting more conversions, getting more people to know what you do. And again, increasing those creative assets, whether they're about the service that you're offering or whether they're actually commercial assets that you might build in time, which actually feed your ability to do it. So this is, I'm not sure if that helps. And please, if you have more questions, just ask some more. I'd like to take, Sam has an intention to scale her fledgling business. Yay! After testing, reflecting, and adapting for 6 months. And I know that Sam is in the marketing business. So again, just to take that example, the intention is to scale. And the first thing, that's a little bit vague. So the first thing would be to be very specific. Intentions are quite specific and they're time-based and they are quantifiable, and it will be clear to you when you've reached success. So you would understand, you begin your intention at the end point, as it were. So you know exactly what you want to achieve by the time you get there. And then working back from that. So let's say scaling your business, let's talk about it in terms of a specific amount of money. So say you wanted a turnover, a 6-figure turnover. I'm just throwing out things. I have no idea what's really going on when you say scale. So, but just say that is your intention, because we're just doing it for illustrative purposes and it's always the same. So in terms of scaling to 100,000 or 6 figures or more, you need to think about the maker, the actual content. You need to think about the processes and how you are going to translate your marketing services, your marketing products into income streams, whether it will be one or whether it will be multiple streams of income, and how they will go together, and also taking into account some of the things I mentioned when I spoke of Lucy's situation. And then you need to think about how you're going to market yourself. Now on the maximizer, because you're a marketeer and a marketing business, you're probably very good on that end. But in terms of actually creating content might be a challenge, or whatever it might. I think you said maker was okay for you, but the actual business processes and how they're going to integrate and how much time you're going to spend on those, and getting those right and setting up the right creative assets. And this workshop this month feeds very much into next month, because next month we're going to talk about the sequence of success for creative businesses. So there are the sort of definable steps that you take if you want to have a business of influence and impact. And if you start doing them out of sequence, you create problems for yourself. So we look at that next month, but this month it's important to understand the process. So here's Kim, and then I'll just move on to the next phase. As a maker, I set writing daily and weekly goals. Do the writing, read writing craft books, and listen to writing craft podcasts. Fantastic. In the same way, I need to write down and pursue specific goals in the manager and maximizer areas of the business. Absolutely. Such as 3 things I need to get done each week in relation to building a reader audience. Such as putting my free prequel on Insta Freebie, connected to my newsletter sign up, or doing a course on Amazon ads, or writing social media blog posts on specific days each week, and so on. Which is good. She's got more. I don't want to depend on being in the mood to do those areas that are not the most natural to me. Fantastic. Kim, it's brilliant. I need to plan and follow through, writing down some specific actions and goals today for the next few months. That's brilliant. And Sam is finding the advice is there. Okay, good. So I think we have clarity around this part, and I can whiz through the rest because, you know, it's more obvious when it gets into the more obvious stuff of making and so on. So the formation stage is then when you are beginning to draft. And again, it's about recognizing that you need to be drafted. Drafting doesn't mean we have a book here because I'm a writer. So drafting means in the maker end of things means drafting a first draft of the novel, or a second draft, or a 950th draft, which is what I'm on one book at the moment. But anyway, moving swiftly along, it doesn't just mean that. It also means you create a kind of a draft of your business, and then you level up in the elaboration stage. And it's the same with the maximizing. You're constantly pitching, testing, experimenting, and feeding back into yourself what works and what doesn't. You quickly drop what doesn't, and you flow with what does. And that's the elaboration and the deepening. When you get something that works, and when you get that feeling also of flow, and this is where we refer back to the germination thing and the other stuff, these unconscious and subconscious stuff that's going on. As creatives, that's really important to us. First of all, because it's a very big part of why we're doing what we're doing in the first place, but also because it actually is very powerful, as we said at the beginning. So when you get to the deepening phase, you have a good feeling about certain things that are happening, and sometimes you don't know why. Trust those feelings, trust your intuitions, trust the process to look after you. There's a really weird thing that happens, and when you've been in a creative field for a certain length of time, you become familiar with it, which is that whatever you're trying to create knows more about what's trying to be born than you do. You're only one condition in the making. There are loads of other things going on around you in life, which is helping this thing that wants to be made through you actually come into fruition. And very often we get in the way. It's our minds, our in all sorts of ways. I'm not going to go into it today because we talked about blockers in a previous workshop, so you can go back and look at that, but you probably are all too familiar with all of this anyway. So, we don't need to talk. We talk too much about that stuff and not enough about what gets us into flow, what makes us feel good, the kind of people we want to surround ourselves with, the kind of situations and conditions we want to surround ourselves with. So when you've drafted and you've got something that's good, so I'm going to take the example of a book because it's something I'm very familiar with. When you do a first draft of a book and you put it away, and then you take it out some weeks or months later to do your first self-edit. As you read through, there's stuff that's absolutely dire and you can't believe you've written. And a lot of it is like that. And some of it that's okay there, and you can see how you can fix it. But there are bits you come across every so often and you like them. And when I work with writing students, this is a really important part of the process. They get a green pen, a highlighter pen, and before they do any correction or any fixing, any editing, or any beating themselves up about how crap they are, they must pick out the bits they like and highlight them. And then you kind of hold them up, and they're your standard, if you like, and you want to bring everything else up to that level. Well, it's exactly the same in your creative business. There's stuff that you're doing well and that you like and makes you feel good. There's stuff that other people think you should do that you shouldn't be doing at all. And how you know you shouldn't do it is it makes you feel completely like you're not able to do it. And we'll talk in a future workshop about outsourcing and getting people to do the stuff that makes you feel just is a turn off for you, because there's no point in forcing yourself to do those things. But there's the stuff that actually you're not doing that you can do and should do and want to do, and that's what you do here. So again, just quickly, if we could take 2 minutes this time, and you can build up on this afterwards. In the drafting and deepening phase, as you make something that you are making. So you're looking at, in the first part, we were looking at creative intention of something that you're going forward with. I'd like you to look in this one, something that you have already drafted or is in draft mode for you around the business. So again, I'm not talking about the maker here. I'm talking about the business. So some process you've set up, some asset you're in the middle, financial, that you're in the middle of creating, some platform that is going to take you out to more people, whatever it might be, something that you have started. Could just take 2 minutes to write about the maker, the manager, the maximizer in relation to those, and just see if there's anything different there. Literally 2 minutes. Okay, just finish that sentence and put down your pen, and you can come back to all of this. Just going back through the comments here, I just want to pick up on something that Suzanne asked. She asked, does that mean you meet your goals? Because that's her problem. Good at setting goals, not so good at execution. Generally speaking, if the execution isn't happening, it's one of two things. It's down to some of the blocks that we talked about in the previous workshop. And if you're looking for previous workshops, you'll find them on the website. But Suzanne, if you want to send me a Facebook message afterwards, I can send it through to you. It might be a block issue, one of the 7 kinds of blocks that you can encounter as a creative, or it might be that your goals, and I'm not, goals for me are small, intentions are bigger, and then goals are smaller. So sometimes the goals are too big and sometimes they're too small. Sometimes they're not enough to excite you, or they're in the wrong area or in the wrong direction. They're flowing in the wrong way. So I can't actually, without knowing a little bit more about your specific situation, it's difficult for me to kind of answer that one. But if we can take it offline, and we can do that afterwards. Okay, and Sandra's going to be taking out the green pen tomorrow. Excellent. Yes, deepening before editing, always. Alrighty, so then finally, I just wanted to look at the success phase, which, as I said at the beginning, is very much about, first of all, just when you've done your deepening, when you've really elaborated and opened up to the full possibilities of what your business can do and you would like to do with it, at a commercial and at a creative level, then you start dismantling and clarifying. Saying no becomes important then. Having tried a number of different things, you then let go of what's not working, you modify, you keep the creative intention coming back, the exact creative intention. Sometimes we set up an intention, get halfway there, and then scoot off over here before finishing. And Suzanne has brought up fear of finishing and doing too many things at once. I mean, these are the two classic creative things. And this is the phase that tackles that. So fear of finishing and doing too many things at once. Doing too many things often comes in just as we're approaching the success phase. And so fear of finishing is a fear of success. And it's also a fear that it's not good enough. It's both of those mixed up together in a strange, horrible soup that we all drink too much. So yeah, I think the solution to that is focus on one thing and let the others go hang for a while. Get it across the line. Get one thing across the line, and then once you've gone through the entire phase, you can go again and go again. Julie is mentioning Planners by Charlie Gilkey, who is great. Charlie does these momentum planners, which you can download on his website. I will have planners shortly, which will take in the things that we're discussing tonight. So while I love Charlie's planners, I think creatives often need something that's a little bit more fluid and a little bit more flexible. And actually what will probably happen is that you build your own from other people's stuff. Suzanne says she knew that. Yeah, we all know it. And then it's the challenge of doing it. And in a sense, I think that's what we need to do for each other, and it's one of the reasons why we have the closed Facebook group where we can remind each other what we're trying to do, because it's very easy to forget, and remind each other for all the we know it. And I think that's a good note for us to end this workshop on. We know what we need to do, but we need help sometimes to make it happen. So yes, I'd love to see you in the Creatives Club Cafe. If that feels like something you would like to do, we set our intentions there, we motivate each other, and we kind of help each other to get along. So until next month. Next month we will look at the sequence of creative success. So we'll begin with the big intention, and we'll bring it through, we're looking at the passion and so on, which a lot of you have sorted through, but then right through pitching and publication and partnership and all the P's. It's 7 P's that you need, and they happen in a very if you do them in a specific sequence, life gets a lot easier. So we look at that next month. And any questions, you know where to find me. All right then, thank you so much for putting up with the tech vagaries, and we are sorted. The presentation lasted, it stayed up there. I'm still here as well, and so it works, yay. And the Facebook Live alert will go to the right place next month. So I think we are now finally sorted for Facebook Live. So thanks for being here, and good luck with your projects, and let me know how it goes. Take care now. Bye-bye.